Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome you to this council meeting of November the 13th, 2017. I'm going to call it to order. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Councillor Ryan.
I just have a potential conflict with report DS 6817 of Amelia, so I will be pushing my chair back when that comes up.
Sorry, 68/17.
Oh, because it's my niece. It's my niece's house, so that's why I'm stepping back.
68/17. Okay, thank you. Any more? Okay, review of items not listed on the agenda.
Through you, Your Worship, there is an addendum with 2 reports to council and 1 bylaw.
Thank you very much. Announcements, and I believe we start with you, Councillor Burton.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with our fire department. Our guys had about as difficult a week as you could imagine. So they lost one of their own, and then had 3 all-night calls all in a week. At the end of the funeral, you could tell they were just pretty worn down, and hopefully it's a quiet couple weeks so they can regroup. Anyway, just thoughts with those guys.
And girls.
And girls, sorry. Thank you, Gary Lynn. Can't believe I was the one who did that. Anyway, my thoughts are with those folks over there. And then I'll let someone else talk about Remembrance Day, but incredible. And then this is an interesting one. A guy who used to live and work in Uxbridge, his name's Ryan Atkins. He competed in the world's toughest mudder, which is like Tough Mudder, which is like a running mud event. In 24 hours, he ran 110 miles over obstacles where you jumped off a 30-foot cliff into the water, swimming a fair bit. So 110 miles in 24 hours. People compete from all over the world, and he brought home $60,000 US in prize money. And his wife also did it, and she ran 75 miles, but she didn't place. But 2 incredibly elite athletes that used to train in Uxbridge, they moved onto the Niagara Escarpment so they can do more climbing. But just unbelievable what these guys do. And they used to work for Mud Hero, which is Adam Ruppel's company.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Councillor Bellinger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning to everyone. Remembrance Day service, just fantastic at the high school. And as always, downtown Uxbridge, lots of people. Just great services. People in Uxbridge should be very, very proud of what happened. Funny thing last night, I took a friend of mine, Orville Downs, to the Tribute Center in Oshawa to watch the Oshawa Generals and the Ottawa Senators. And I wore my Uxbridge Blackhawk jacket. And out of the blue, a lady tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're with the Uxbridge Blackhawks? My uncle played for them in 1961, and my dad was associated with them." It was Jack Todd, was the uncle. Jakes Todd is this lady's father. 2 people played last night for the honors for the Senators that are from Uxbridge. One was Yule. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. Out of the blue, she just, so anyway, Oshawa lost bad, 6-2. But no, the biggest thing was, it was Remembrance Day. Kudos to the Legion and to the high school for the great job they did. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I certainly won't touch on what's already been said. I will just mention 2 quick items. One is the BIA has their AGM on November 21st here, so that certainly would be great if people would come out. And as well, we have the Santa Claus Parade this week. Council will be in a truck or a trailer or whatever you've decided on, which will be great, so we will be in the back. And as well, on November 18th, there is the Wooden Sticks Dog Walk for the animal shelter. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor.
Good morning, thank you. As said, Remembrance Day at the high school and our regular Remembrance Day It was just absolutely amazing. It was amazing afterward, having lunch and visiting with the veterans and hearing stories. And I'm just really praying for no rain on Saturday for the parade, with all the kids. Well, snow's got to be a little bit better than rain, in a way. A reminder that this Thursday evening for the United Church in Goodwood, their turkey supper, which is always absolutely amazing. And also tonight, Scott Central School is celebrating their 50th anniversary, and it's from 5 till I believe 7. And just a reminder that today is World Kindness Day, so reach out and do an act of kindness for anybody, including a smile. Thank you.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, just to build on what's already been said about Remembrance Day, it always blows my mind to see the number of people that come out to the cenotaph in this small town. I know we have people visiting from out of town, and it blows their mind. They just can't believe it, because where they come from, they may get, 20, 30 people out for Remembrance Day service, and I'm going to guess there must have been close to a couple of thousand out there by the time you looked at the side streets and everything else, so it's incredible. I always tell my children to remember and appreciate what these people have earned for us, so my own father served as well, so since a little kid I've been, I guess, brought up in that sort of thing, so I try and do the same thing with my own children. So BIA has already been mentioned. We have an AVEC meeting as well this week, so hopefully we'll have that app coming forward soon. And as well, I'll let Councillor Malloy speak to the Santa Claus parade, but we're going to do something, so stay tuned for that one. So.
Councillor, excuse me, Councillor Malloy?
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I will. I think the first thing to say is that we obviously had a funeral for Scott Coogee this week, and I was so proud. I'm sure we all were. The fire departments involved did a fantastic job on the service, and it was so respectful and so well done. It was a great send off to a wonderful member of our community. A couple other things I think I should bring up. One of them is I think you've noted that there's a possibility of a bus strike coming up very soon with First Student. So they're supposed to give 72 hours notice, and I think they were in a legal strike position as of yesterday. So just to note, keep that in mind, because those buses are pretty important to us. No one's mentioned, I know the high school ceremony was fantastic, but the Hercules at the end of it was really unbelievable. We sort of saw the Hercules fly from the north and fly past the school straight over, and it was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. But then it came back, and it did the big tilt the wings over and go around. It was really quite spectacular to see that thing fly over. So what a wonderful job they do at that high school of putting that together. So it was really quite exciting, especially all the little kids down in the field looking up. They were quite impressed, I can assure you. But that was a really good day. A couple other little things. There's a breakfast with Santa Claus December the 2nd at Sanford Hall, put on by the Sanford Community Association, and December the 9th, the following week, there's one at the Zephyr Hall, put on by the Zephyr Community Association, and they're usually both really, really well attended. One other thing, I'll get back to the Santa Claus Parade. We do have, Brooks Farms have been kind enough to give us sort of a people carrier that we're going to tow behind one of our Works Department pickup trucks. We'll have some music, we'll have everybody in it. I don't know if you're going to drive, Gary Lynn, or not. I guess you're going to drive. You know, that I say that with real caution, because she's driven for a few years, and we've been in the back of one of those trucks for the last couple of years, and we're actually fortunate to be here today. but anyway, so we'll see. But anyway, so I'd ask council if he would mind to meet me behind the Uxbridge Arena. I'll bring the pickup truck and the carrier from Brooks Farms in, and we can spend a few minutes just decorating, getting ready for it. So yeah, let's hope for a good weekend this weekend. And I think that's all. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, I think everything certainly has been covered, but my condolences to the Uxbridge Fire Department. As Councillor Barton has stated, it was a horrific week for them, and our hearts and our prayers are certainly with the Coogee family, and I was very pleased to see the turnout, although I have to say, and I'll say it publicly, I cannot believe that Scott being a full-time firefighter with the town of Ajax, not one member of their council was at the funeral. I find that very disgusting. Moving right along, because I'm sure that will bring a few comments for next week. Rick, please come up. And Rick is the Museum Advisory Committee Chair, and he is following up with us this morning for a request that we have received regarding a full-time historical center curator and manager. And I'm glad that you're here this morning, Rick, before we enter budget deliberations, because once that's over, your chances were nil to where they would be nil. Stand it there. So I'm glad
Slim and nil without the slim.
Yes, it's good to have you here. We want to thank you for the work that your committee is doing and has done throughout the year, and we're prepared to listen to you, and we'll see what can come from it.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to assure Councillor Beach that I will do an act of kindness. My wife looked askance at me this morning when I reminded her where I was going. She said, "Oh, that's cruel, unusual punishment for council to start their meeting with." So, needless to say, after 50-plus years, I bit my tongue, and I'll get back at her another way. Anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to take some of your time, and as the Mayor has suggested, it is just largely a follow-up. I did leave our June get-together quite encouraged that you would give full consideration. We also at MAC recognize that sometimes these requests are a little like prayer. The answer isn't always yes. So at the same time, if we don't ask, then for sure the answer is no. So I have a little summary here, and what I mostly wanted to do was not reiterate what I said in June. You have all of that on paper. I just wanted to just update a couple of things and present a couple of new ideas which might help, even independent of the full-time curator issue, in terms of dealing with the gap between revenue and expenses at the Historical Center. There is a handout that I'll speak to just about halfway through, and on we go. First off, from June, there was a question asked, which I could not fully answer, as to what other museums. You may remember we had a chart with 3 other museums and how they accommodated staff who worked year-round. The other museums, with Church Stouffville was one, and I forget who the other one was, Georgina, I believe. They work on site. With respect to Scugog, Nancy assured me that until 2010 they used to work out at the Pioneer Museum on the island, but since that time they actually have a place, a permanent place in the arena. I think that was suggested by somebody, but I just wanted to confirm that that in fact seems to be the case. And as to what might happen here, I would leave that to your wisdom and that of staff. I'm sure a way and a place could be found. Now I'd like to just address this page here. This is Nancy's report as curator to MAC. We last met this past Wednesday, November the 8th. Nancy's always done a wonderful job at providing us with a report, and well in advance. And so the curator position, as you know, Nancy's retiring. She finishes up a week this Friday and would normally be off for the winter anyway, where she's staying on. So that position, I believe, has now been filled, and I would imagine Amanda will update you with that. Something that's interesting, one of the things that helps keep us afloat and is that we apply annually for the museum operating grant, and we have been approved for this year to the amount of $12,136. The October events are really what I wanted to highlight. and I will not read them to you. You can read for yourself. The key piece is that out of these 4 events, the last of which has been going on, I think now for 4 or 5 years, this was the first night that we did it, or the first year we did it for 2 years, or 2 nights, and we had just under 600 on the 2. Attendance on the Friday was greater, it was 300 plus, and on the Saturday night it was 200 plus, so it was well worth the effort. And as you can see from that and the other 3 events, that generated over $2,000 in revenue, and probably is the biggest earning month that we have had that I can remember in the center's history from programming sources. Certainly in bygone days, the revenue from the STEAM show, now Heritage Days, has been in the thousands, but that's also technically an historical society one that we can't really claim for. And just in passing the Rotary Christmas home tour, they said the place would be packed, and indeed it was. I know some of you attended, and I was there from, I guess, roughly 12:30 to 2 or something, and I arrived at a low time, and by the time I left it was packed again, and parking was at a premium. So that's an event that may or may not come round again, but it certainly got people up there. So that's that one. The attachment on your page is, please don't blame staff for the sloppy cutting. I did it all. I did it all by myself, and as a kindergarten student, I think I was the only one in my class that at one point had his handwork held up as an example of how not to do it. I was, at 4 years old, was taken aback a bit, but I guess, you can't deny the truth, so the sloppy cutting is all on me, but just an indication that staff does work year-round. Those 5 events, 6 events, and again, I won't read them to you, you can read them for yourself. The Heritage Day, of course, is in partnership with the Historical Society, but these events are already on the books, plus I can tell you that we already have 4 weddings booked for next year as well, and that's becoming an increasing source of revenue, and as important, it gets people out on site. And I should, in passing, also mention that the dog park, I've been up several times to the museum the last couple of weeks, and since the opening, I haven't been there once, but there's been at least 6 to 8 cars, and probably a half a dozen or more dogs. So, because of the shared parking, and that's a subject for another discussion. But we do retain some concerns about, a suitable parking area, and I think now that we've seen the usage that it's getting, that's probably something going forward that would happen in the fullness of time. And finally, an idea that was presented a couple of meetings ago, and I was strictly instructed by the committee to present this to you. One of the ways that we can maybe narrow the gap between expenses and revenues is through partnerships or sponsorships. And as an example, I would cite what I understand to be a significant contribution in kind from Hayes Landscaping and Uxbridge Tree Service, to name 2, toward making the dog park a reality. And that's a concept that we think that could bear some fruit for the Historical Center as well. It's something that a curator would obviously have to be intimately involved with. We haven't done the heavy-duty thinking as to how this might actually be implemented or how it might play out. We haven't gotten that far. We just think it's an idea whose time maybe has come. And once again, that would provide further fuel, I guess, for the argument for a full, or at least a fuller time curator going forward. And the other things, of course, not only involving the curator, would also result in more community outreach, which in turn feeds back into the operations and visitations and programs at the center. So those are just some of the things that have transpired, and we thought about since June. We didn't just leave it with you and want to run and hide. We did feel strongly about coming back largely as a reminder and with a few ideas, which hopefully I've presented somewhat clearly this morning, as you're beginning the budget process, and we wish you well with that. I've been around long enough and involved with committees to know that it's not an easy process, and if I ever had a notion to run for council, I'm sure that process would likely be sufficient to dissuade me. So I will stop there.
Thank you very much, Rick, and thank you again to you and your committee for the work that's been done at the museum. And I'd just like to say that I know that we do have a parking issue there. Thank you. It was very evident yesterday during the house tour, and I think that perhaps Councillor Malloy and I will have to sit down and look at the parking, because it's the dog park has become very successful, and with success comes some road bumps that we not necessarily foresaw or foreseen for something. Anyway, I did go up to the museum. I had a couple events on yesterday that I couldn't attend the tour of homes, but I have to say that the two trees in the museum, in the church and in the hall were unbelievable.
Weren't they?
And it was all made of old decorations, sheet music. Unbelievable. So, you know what? Your committee did a great job. I know that you had help decorating them, but it was also a couple members that did a lot of the work, and I want to say congratulations to them. So I think what we'll do is we hear your, and first of all, congratulations on the amount of use that now is happening in the museum grounds. You know, it's probably the best view in Uxbridge of the town, and to have a wedding there and have any number of social events there is fantastic. So thanks for you know, enticing people to look at your venue for these types of things. Also, we do have your list here, and as you know, it has to go through budget. And I thank you for putting it together. Excuse me, for putting it together, and I know that council look at it very seriously through the budget process. Is there any questions? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Hanna. Quick question. How many weddings did we have in 2017, do you know?
Good question, and I don't know.
Okay.
I would have to check with, Nancy could tell me in a heartbeat. I want to think there were around a half a dozen, but that would just be a guess.
Okay.
I can find out and send you an email.
That would be amazing. Thank you very much.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, there are no other questions. Thanks again, Rick. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor Connor. Rick, did the Rotary Home Tour bring any revenue into the museum itself?
I don't know, number one.
Okay.
Staff
doesn't
would
state
know.
it on your report, that's why I was wondering.
Sorry?
It didn't state so on your report, that's why.
No, I think the two, where we would generate revenue would be through the gift shop, which actually is run by the Historical Society. That said, we do have a joint membership for museum and society, and so there is a sharing there. I cannot honestly say what arrangements. I've always understood that the gift shop, you know, stays with the society, but that said, the society sort of pours all of their money back into the museum, so we do get it one way or another.
Okay, great.
There was a box there in the school
For donations, yes.
for donations, and as I couldn't go on the tour, I just bought a ticket, so to speak, and made that contribution to the Historical Society. So.
And just for council's information too, we talked about parking up there. I've met with staff, 3 weeks ago, we walked the site, we're gonna put a dedicated pedestrian trail up to the museum, partly in because of the dog park too, but there's no real access you can get to it unless you come off of Bolton and go up the back way,
Right.
up through where the old wood yard used to be, so hopefully Jamie can get that going as soon as the snow melts, and we'll have a pedestrian access, because when you get up to the top of the Quaker Trail, there is no really anywhere to go unless you walk on the grass, so the idea is to have a dedicated pedestrian route up to the museum.
Councillor Malloy?
Stay tuned for that one.
Thank you. I spoke briefly with Rick, and yeah, the parking is an issue up there, and that's something we are dealing with. We're gonna see if we can take care of that and make it a little bit bigger, make it a little more permanent. So we're working on that to get it done. We recognize that. And thanks, Rick, for all that you do. Thanks so much.
Oh, well, thank you, and I neglected to mention, sorry, and then I will shut up. That little list of events, they had pasted onto the back of our Fifth Line postcard, and they were handing them out yesterday and everywhere else too, so we handed out a flock of those, and hopefully we'll get some return on that.
Thanks very much, Rick.
Well, thank you for
And
hearing.
please pass on our thanks to the committee for the work they're doing on our behalf.
I will do that, and thank you for listening.
Eric Pay. Eric is with us today. He made a request in September, and then he went away for a few days or a little period of time, and he's now back to make a presentation to council on regarding the truck traffic that's coming through our town. So welcome. Oh, you have to push the button, sir. There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and Regional Councillor and other councillors here. I'm not used to making public speeches. I much prefer to write things down, my comments, and as you'll see with this attachment you have to read, it's nothing in there that you don't already know. You're well aware of what I'm saying. I'm just trying to refresh residents' memories, etc., and to remind them of the problem that we do have. So I will read from this, if you don't mind, as I'm more comfortable than reading this. I can always then go back to my notes once I've said something. The first thing is, I say, is that the comments I make are not meant to put any inference on anybody in particular. You all have difficult jobs to do. I don't fully understand, I wouldn't say rigmarole, but I don't understand the protocol and the procedures that you all have to go through. However, in the past few years, there's been an increase in the through traffic. And these trucks are so much bigger and noisier now than what they were in the past. I believe this is a major reason for the decline and difficulty in attracting new businesses into this area. The area is continuing to deteriorate and is very difficult to keep clean and free from dirt. The trucks just keep going by, and you could sweep up every day and you'd never notice a difference. Business owners, residents and visitors like to have a clean streets. The town has placed a number of seats in this area, but really, who would sit on those seats while these trucks are going by, emitting their fumes, dust, pollution, other things? It was a good idea, but when you think of it, who would want to sit amongst all that? These trucks do pass frequently. I used to live down on Munro Crescent, down the road, and it wasn't really worth the traffic. We moved away for 18 months, and then they've come back, and we now have a condominium on Bridgewater. Now, we purchased on a Sunday, no traffic, but the following morning, in the summer, basically, it started shortly before 5 o'clock. These sand and gravel trucks come through, and there's 2 or 3 of them at a time. They come through. So right now, every morning, my wife and I were awake about 4:30, 4:45, waiting to hear these trucks go by. It really is a bad situation there. The work on the culvert will start next year. Trucks will have to be diverted. Why not make the Lake Ridge Road and Goodwood Road, why not have the province reroute 47 instead of coming through the town? As I mentioned in these notes, there's no longer a need for Highway 47 to come through Uxbridge. It's no longer a hub. With all the new traffic and the modern traffic, etc., people are going further afield. So there's no really need to have that coming through 47. So if they could come down Lake Ridge to Goodwood and then join up 47 the other side, because I understand the 47 stops at York Durham and it only goes as far as Highway 12 when you're going east. As I say, with this culvert being put up, there will be a need to direct the traffic, reroute it. So we can make that a permanent reroute in that area. That would solve one of the problems. Already in existence, however, there is a bypass notice coming into. Please use the Highway 47 Uxbridge bypass via Goodwood Road 21 and Lake Ridge Road 23 to do that. There's a sign also coming from 47 as you approach Uxbridge prior to Lake Ridge. And a sign again coming from the north down Lake Ridge. There's a sign, similar sign. However, there's nothing on Brock. So, as I mentioned in my notes, perhaps that was an oversight. But anyway, we do need, well, not we, there is a need to get these trucks out of the way. And I'm aware that everybody here is aware of it. And it's a delicate situation because you don't only have to consider the residents, it's also the businesses. Now, these businesses, and once again, in my notes there, 1 to 4, is that the sand and gravel are the main culprits. They do start at any time after 4:30, 5 o'clock, say, and finish at 7. They, owners of the pits, in the last 18 months, 2 years, they have applied to extend their digging operations, and it's been granted. So they're going to be here for some time. So there's no fear of them moving away and taking their revenue. What it means is that their truck drivers, or drivers that are delivering to these people, will have to do a little longer route. The businesses in the south end, Zayas, Canadian Tire, all the others, and the other stores that continue to go in, I think if they could well have a letter sent to them saying that could you have your trucks from Brock Street, 47, make your deliveries and exit the same way. You don't have to come right through here. It might mean a bit more inconvenience for those going on to Port Perry, Sunderland, etc. But really, they don't need to do this. We're aiming to make Uxbridge a green community. I think if we approach both businesses, that we are endeavouring to do this, and they could be the leaders, or one of the leaders, right in the forefront of making this a green community. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but I'm sure there's many more residents along Toronto Street South and Brock Street that would back me on this in lots of cases. So I'm just asking the council to check. You probably know all the ways which you can get things done, whatever, but obviously it's a provincial road, so we've got to have the province involved. But with the fact that if we can get these studies done indicating the amount of fumes that are out there, and pollution, then this might motivate them to move a little quicker and have the region and the province work together to solve the situation. Bev Northeast has already mentioned that this is a provincial problem. They caused it. They can fix it. I don't know anything about that. I've been in Uxbridge approximately 20 years, except for the 18-month break we had. But I was living down Beswick Lane first, and then on Munro. So I didn't really hear the traffic. It wasn't my concern. But now I am there. I'm stuck basically in there unless I move away again and make the realtors more money. Yeah. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. I hope I came across what I want to do, or not what I want to, what I wish could be done. I know you have many, many other things to do, but I hope that this could work its way up to a higher priority. And I think everybody, the town itself, will also benefit from that. So thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pay, for coming in, and also the letter that you wrote previously. Just, if I could, just make a couple comments. Highway 47 is not a provincial highway. It is a regional road now. It was downloaded to us a number of years ago, when the province downloaded everything they possibly could. Also, we did request that the region look at closing that section of Brock Street. And I think now it's a perfect time to go back to the table with the region, because Brock Street will be closed off for approximately 4 to 5 months. And what better time than that to have some pretty serious discussions of how the region might implement no trucks coming through our downtown core. In saying that, I understand the region's position as well, because if you look at Highway 12 as an example that runs right through Whitby and Brooklyn, that is a major truck route as well. So if they are going to close one municipality off to trucks, they could be faced with other issues from other municipalities. So that doesn't mean that it can't be looked at. It shouldn't be looked at. I can sit here today and guarantee you the discussions will take place again. And hopefully we can come to some sort of a compromise as to what's happening. But I also have to say, Mr. Pay, that wasn't that many years ago, well, time flies, eh? So I'm going to say maybe 15 years or 18 years ago that we were having a truck through our downtown core every 45 seconds. That was horrendous. So we're seeing less trucks today than we have in the past, but I also have to say to you that what you have said is very true. It is stifling our downtown core from potential growth, particularly in the summertime with dust and noise and that sort of thing. So I can only tell you today is that these meetings will continue. We've got an ideal situation, I think, to really press the region. And I'll make that commitment to you that we will do our best. I also have to say to you that we have to get around the fact that local businesses need trucks, so for deliveries and that sort of thing. And you have stated that you appreciate the fact that businesses need deliveries. So again, I thank you very much for coming in and so eloquently expressing your concerns. Your concerns, I believe, are just not yours, as you said. It's very many people's concerns of what we can do to make our downtown core a more friendly place than it is now because of the truck traffic. The other thing is that I have to say is that unfortunately, the vast majority of trucks that are coming in to this township, we are not receiving any revenue from them because they're outside our boundaries. So other municipalities are collecting fees, but we reap the consequences of them. In saying all that, the day the trucks stop traveling, we're all in trouble economically. So we're trying very hard. There is a case right now in that's in Simcoe and in Kawartha Lakes, where there has been a decision or a pending decision where one municipality is trying to get royalties or a lump sum every year for the trucks traveling through its municipality. So it'll be a very interesting case study when that ever comes up in court. So any questions or comments?
No.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, just one, Mr. Pay, and I can certainly appreciate your concerns as to where you live. Unfortunately, this isn't just happening on 47. I don't know if you've witnessed trucks now coming across Durham 8 around the roundabout. They're coming from the Pickering Uxbridge town line now across. So this isn't just happening where you are. And in the hamlets as well, Zephyr Road, Sanford Road, they're all experiencing the same thing. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to defer to my regional reps to represent us down there, and hopefully the region, with this culvert project, will reconsider at least the east block of Uxbridge. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for your benefit too. So.
Okay. Just a comment with from the mayor herself. You mentioned the trucks. 18 years ago, those trucks did not have pump trailers. I don't think they did. So we might have reduced the... Okay, I was going to say they might have reduced the numbers since then, but the volume is still probably more with the growth. But anyway, it's a niggly point to say about, but I mean, okay. Thank you for your opportunity, and
Thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Pay. It's good to think outside the box and look at things from different points of view, and we really appreciate your feedback. You know, I think we've all been brainstorming different ways to solve these issues, and we really appreciate yours. It's a major concern all over the township. And just one question to staff. We're expecting a report back from Public Works, are we not? And from the region? Ingrid?
Sorry, I'm not aware of one, but I'll certainly look into it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
We've already got a legal opinion in regards to a discussion with the region in regards to Brock Street and Toronto Street. So we've kind of separated them out because we're dealing with Brock Street in isolation because it is more of a regional request. Ben Kester is looking into the rural roads and roads that are actually under the township's jurisdiction and what actually has driven. Some of them have no trucks on them now, and so it's really a history on why and what happened to see those roads not have trucks on them. And I think Mr. Kester also indicated at a previous meeting that he was going to be bringing a traffic engineer in, and the traffic engineer can hopefully answer a number of questions that council has in regards to many issues, including the long discussion around the removal of stop signs. So that will all be part and parcel. Once those questions have been answered, then a report will come forward on our local roads as well. So we are already in discussions with the region in regards to the bypass that they have constructed and the fact that there are no half-load sections anymore on 23 and 21. So the road is fully capable of taking trucks all year. But the question then becomes is how do you ban certain trucks from coming through the downtown? That's the challenge. You'll allow some and you don't allow others.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Again,
Well-
thank you, Mr. Pay,
Okay.
for taking in and express your concerns.
Okay, well, thanks again once everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, approval of the minutes of October the 23rd, Councillor Malloy and Councillor Beach. All those in favour? Carried. Correspondence?
Correspondence number 135, Region of Durham, RE Regional Transit Development Charge Bylaw.
Councillor Bowser?
I'll give you a motion to receive it. We did have a public meeting at the region on October the 11th. It's a standalone bylaw for transit. At the time, we had a presentation from the Treasurer Department. After Mary made her presentation, there was no questions from the audience. There was no questions from council to staff. This will now appear before committee on December the 6th, then go to council on December the 13th. If it goes through, it'll be effective on January the 1st, 2018.
Councillor Malloy?
I'm surprised there were no comments. I really do have to question, I don't know how we're gonna deal with this, but if I was a developer here, I would say, you want me to, and I know that I'm not proposing that we get out of the region, do any of that nonsense. I think though that transit is one thing that's directly, our taxes are directly related to the service, and we don't have the service here. And if I was a developer here and I was coming in, now I'm being asked to pay additional DCs for a service that doesn't exist, I think I'd be a little upset. So I hope that we can express to the region that although, I mean, we are part of the region, no question about that, but transit is directly related, our taxes are directly related to the service, which we don't have. And if I'm a developer, I'm going to say, what, you want me to pay extra for what? We got one bus running through town. I know they've done some, a little bit more in the past couple of years, but the reality is, transit is one thing that our taxes are directly related to the service, and we don't have the service.
I totally agree with your comments. My notes regarding this is I think we need to sit down with the three, or we need to sit down with the other two, but the three of us in the northern part of the region and express our concerns regarding this. We're already paying equal to the City of Oshawa, the City of Pickering, Ajax, all those municipalities that have service that, I mean, if you put the three of us together, we don't even have, and we're paying the same amount of money. So I agree with what you're saying, and as I said, I think that we'll need to set up a meeting with the maybe the mayors and the regional councillors with Scugog and Brock Township, and the only way that we're going to make our voice heard down there is to let them know as the united front in the north that we do not support this for the reasons being that we're being asked, our developers are being asked to pay into a service that already is really, really lacking here. So that would be my recommendation. As I say, I can't make that, and we do have a receive for information
I'd be happy to make that. Well,
on the table, so I'll have to deal with that in a minute. But in the meantime, Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. Just to build on that point about the developer is going to pass those costs along to the homeowners. So
Yep.
Of course.
let's not kid ourselves. It's not the developers that are paying this, although they're the ones paying it up front. At the end of the day, it's going to be the homeowner / taxpayer who's going to be paying for this. So if the region or whoever is not prepared to provide services for the three municipalities, then there has to be a differential rate. Now, has anything like that ever been discussed at the regional level? Like, I understand where they're going. They're not going to put a bus in motion if nobody's going to be riding it, but at the same point, the people that aren't getting that service shouldn't be paying the same rates that Oshawa is or Pickering Ajax.
Well,
It doesn't make sense, you know?
We did when it first came in, and I'd just like to remind council members that I was the only member of the three municipalities in the north that voted against transit, because I thought it was premature to bring transit to the northern municipalities. I lost big time on that one, so we moved forward. When it first came in, there was a deal struck because, or not because, but we were paying at a lower rate than the southern municipalities were. However, that time frame for that break, so to speak, ran out quite a while ago. So we are paying equal to every other southern municipality right now. And I think that we've got to stand up for ourselves and say, you know, enough is enough. As you say, why pay for a service that's not available to you? That's not right. So, we do have a motion to receive for information. Do I have a seconder on that? You're gonna second it? Okay.
And
Well,
that
I think that what we need to do is maybe, if you wanna receive it for information, but then to, add on to it that a meeting be set up with the, 3 mayors and regional councillors in the north to present their position on the December 6th committee. Thank you. All right, so we have a motion, we have a mover, we have a seconder. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence number 136, Town of Mono, RE Bill 148, Fair Workplaces, Better Jobs Act 2017.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I would support this. This is a major concern for us. Now, I believe we've already done it through AMO, but have we sent a letter?
I believe that was our recommendation, that we, support AMO's position. Maybe we could ask staff to look at that.
Okay, 'cause if we haven't already sent our own letter, I think we should also send one, just to make sure that
Yeah,
our voice is
I
heard.
agree. Okay, Councillor Malloy?
Just a comment, just some things that are really striking in this bill. We all understand there's in some cases, a need to raise the minimum wage and that sort of thing. Hopefully it's phased in rather than shoved in. But one of the scariest parts of this one is they have a proposal in there that our fire department, for example, would have to be paid a minimum of 3 hours every day they're on call. So imagine with 40 firemen that we have, volunteers that we have now, we'd be paying for 120 hours of firemen every day. So this is a bill that really is totally inappropriate, and somebody really isn't thinking. Either they're thinking or they really don't care about what's going on here in the north. That would finish our volunteer fire department for sure, and it simply wouldn't be affordable. So that's just one little piece of so many things that are in this, is a 3-hour minimum standby for every fireman in our volunteer fire department. I think that's just plain nuts. So we have to really try to put some heat on this province to stop creating stupid bills, really, and this one was really totally inappropriate for rural communities like ourselves.
Around Toronto, doesn't it? And people that make these decisions that are in ivory towers and don't recognize what the rest of us are trying to deal with in the 905. So I think what we should do is we should support this, okay? And then I'm going to ask council to make another resolution or another motion subsequent to the supporting, to ask staff to come back with a report as to what this could mean dollar-wise for us, okay? So we have a motion that's been moved by Councillor Barton to support. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried. Can I have a subsequent motion, please? Okay, to ask staff to come back with a report regarding the financial implications of the Better Jobs Act regarding the firefighters. Or I don't think we should just narrow it down to firefighters. I think we need a financial analysis of what this bill could cost the municipality, okay?
Mayor O'Connor, because it also applies to our Works Department, it applies
Yep,
to a lot of
everything.
things. And even our fire department alone would be about $20,000 a week bill for us,
Yeah,
just for the fire department.
yeah. So, yeah, okay. So do I have you moving that, Councillor? And do I have a seconder? Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, committee reports. Oh, do we have another piece of correspondence? Should we be receiving this piece of correspondence? Okay, so can I have a mover, please, to receive Mr. Pay's letter to council? Okay, and Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Committee minutes, report 21 of the General Purpose and Administration Committee. Just receive it for information. Councillor Hyatt and Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Report to councils, report CL 5317 of Catalina regarding the implementing Bill 68. I think what we need to do support recommendation, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried. Report DS 6417 of Amelia, regarding the Committee of Adjustment Application A34 2017, for 50 Victoria Drive. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Malloy. All those in favor? Carried. Report DS 6517 of Amelia, again regarding relief from rear yard depth, 7 Furland Court. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Report DS 6617 of Amelia's regarding relief of exterior side yard depth, relief of minimum setback from the street center line, 110 Planks Lane. Can I suggest to council that maybe they need to build a smaller house? This house sits in the middle of wartime houses, or as what we refer to as wartime houses. And for you people that don't know where this exactly is, it's across from the high school, right on the corner of Planks Lane and 3rd Avenue. And when I see, I mean, it looks like a beautiful house for the plans that they have got, but I think that that house is way too big, especially when you have to look at these types of setbacks for that piece of property. That's my comments. Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I went up and looked at it. It's the old Robinson house where it's been demolished and taken away. The only thing, the reason I went up, because I know it's at the wartime houses, and I wondered about towering over the house beside it. But then I went to the south, which is the first street south is New Street, and I went on the corner. Huge house there. So I don't know how we allowed the one. I think it's 116 New Street. And then this one here, the only question I really wanted to know is how high is this new house going in? I mean, I looked at the one at New Street. It's high and it's tight. And actually, it's got a double garage that comes in off of 3rd Avenue. So, Amelia, how high is this place?
So, I don't have the building height, but, actually, no, there should be a building height here. Let's have a look. So he's indicating that it's going to be 8 meters high.
Well, I agree with you, Jack, but I don't think that, I mean, when you look at this one, it's the house next to it, it's the house behind it. The one on 3rd Avenue, there's basically no house of this size behind it. There's 2 houses there that were built a long time after the wartime houses were built. But I was just expressing my concern that, you know, people that have a pool and that sort of thing are not going to have any privacy whatsoever. But it's, I understand that, you know, people have a right to build what they want to. I'm just expressing a bit of concerns here for the privacy of people, and we're seeing this happen more and more. Intensification. I think intensification for people in Toronto is fine, but I don't like to see that sort of thing happen in Uxbridge. And those are my personal comments. Councillor.
I would agree with Councillor Ballinger on this one. I think that if we've already done it for one, I think it's only fair, and I certainly get what you're saying as well. I think they're putting in a beautiful house, and that's going to be part of neighborhoods gentrifying, as you're going to get some new styles in. I don't see anything wrong with this, and I would move the recommendation.
Okay. Any other further comments? None? Okay. What's council wish to do with this? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you make it? Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried. 20, oh, where am I? The next one I found exceedingly hard to read. And I'm sorry, I don't understand what is going on here. They want relief from everything. And I think that before we vote on this, Council, I would like to table this until we have a full understanding of what is going on. I know that, and I don't want to stop Pondsteel from expansion. Expansion for a business in Uxbridge is awesome, but for the life of me, I don't understand what we're doing with this one. So, can I suggest that we table this and that we have the ability to have staff or Amelia or Brian put into layman's language, or perhaps a diagram. I mean, there is a diagram there on page, where is it? Page... page 79, but it's pretty blurry, at least mine is. I'm having trouble to quite understand what is going on here. Maybe a staff could take time now, we could deal with it, but... I'll give you a motion to table it. Okay, does everybody feel comfortable? What's happening here? They want to expand. Okay. No.
You need to be on the microphone so we can...
You have to be
The
on the
microphone to get you on the YouTube.
Well, you know what? I know what's going on now, too, and I see this, is because he can't buy the land to the north that we have said they should be negotiating. And that's with the owner of the land, the windows, Stovall Glass. We thought we had a solution for them, but unfortunately the two of them aren't speaking. We can't get involved in that, but I think we need to, before we pass anything here, to know what we're doing, and maybe you could...
Sure. I guess there's more. I think what we should is, I think you should refer it to staff. We should bring the health department back into this discussion. When we had a pre-con for this, I expressed concerns that you're trying to do maybe too much on a property that needs to have the appropriate setbacks. When you start looking at getting closer to the boulevards and you start looking at, you know, potentially taking parking away, that this was all laid out in the pre-con for those of you that were at that pre-con. And I think from the health department, I just want to have a level of comfort too that the reserve septic beds and the septic is actually going to be handled properly on the site, and that we're not going to find out later that we have issues because we haven't increased the setbacks enough. But to me, one or two things is a minor variance. This is really, like you say, it's got many, many pieces to it. Yeah. Yeah. So let's just refer it back to staff then, and what we'll do is we'll bring the developer in and go through all of that, but I think we should also bring the health department in as well, just to make sure that they have the adequate sized beds. I would hate to think that we get to the end and there's still not enough.
And I think we all want it, and good for Hans Steel for wanting to expand, and that their business is so successful that they have to expand. But I think that this really needs some extra time spent on it. As you say, 12 exemptions from the bylaw, I think, is a lot to handle. And as the CAO has stated, we have to make sure above all that the health department's needs and requirements are met. So, Councillor Barton.
Just a quick comment. What delay are they going to experience on this project? How quickly can we get this back? That's all. Do you think?
Well, we'll do it as quickly as we can.
Can we deal with it? Okay, good.
Provided we can get everybody in.
Okay.
We're going to need their architect in.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to have to make sure that our own boulevards are being protected and there's adequate space that is left for that.
Yep.
I kind of think that our best approach is to invite the health department to come and also to invite AECom to come, because they're the ones that have to maintain or ensure that the setbacks in order for that subdivision drainage and everything else to be maintained. And then the other issue too is that there's ground infiltration stuff that needs to happen in the industrial park, and whether or not they're gonna be able to achieve that. If you're gonna occupy 90% of your property, let's say, and are you gonna still be able to achieve the requirements for, LID measures? I don't know.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to tell right now.
Yeah, just, my goal here is to make sure that we're not slowing down business, but we're protecting ourselves.
No.
I just wanna make sure there's a balance.
And I think that none of us wanna do that, but we have to protect, him as well as ourselves.
Totally get it.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Just if you can consider this in some of the comments, is this area, they've got 5,000 square meters of outside storage space. That's right on Durham 1, right? That's the west end of the property? So there's nothing being built there, that's just gonna be outside storage space. And there always is an issue in this industrial park with outside storage space, so that's something that has to be considered. Isn't that sort of a contractor's yard?
Durham 1?
Well, a concession one. York-Durham line, yeah.
Yeah, the boundary line,
Yes.
yeah.
So there's always issues about outside storage and contractors' yards and all that sort of stuff. We always have grief in that industrial park, although there's quite a bit of it there now. So that's something you may have to discuss. Because it is a bit confusing to me, because it looks like they're creating an outside storage area and a building, and in addition to the building.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I'm a bit confused. I'm not sure what,
I think
and I'm
that's
sure
why
what
we need to
setback,
sit down with them,
what
so
setback applies to what, that's sort of my question.
as soon as staff can get a meeting, I urge all of you to, perhaps attend and hear it. Okay, we do have a motion, who was it made by? Fred. By Fred, and seconded by? No one yet. No one? Councillor Malloy. All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Bryan has a conflict on the next one, DS 6817, again of Amelia, regarding relief from rear yard on 98 Campbell Drive. Councillor Malloy?
I'll move the recommendation, Mayor O'Connor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried. Report, 5417 of Susan Strawn, tax collector, recancellation refund reduction of 215, 16, and 17 really taxes under section 357, 358 of the Municipal Act, 2001, and it's regarding, 43 Nell Kidd. I think what's happened here is that, the owner of this property bought, probably, in all likelihood, paid a premium because they were backing onto a golf course. The golf course is no longer there. And this is the type of thing that we get caught in, because the developers sell at a premium, and then when the golf course or the parkland or whatever it is behind them becomes something else, then we get caught with having to refund taxes. And this isn't a lot of money, but you know, this is a type of thing that I think we have to be very careful of in the future. Finance Chair.
Mayor O'Connor, I just want to move the recommendation.
Okay. But I think that we have to be careful. Do you not agree? I mean, why are we paying back taxes because the developer sold them land that he knew, or I shouldn't say he knew, but with all likelihood wasn't going to be there again? I bet you those people paid $10,000 or $20,000 more to back onto a golf course.
I don't know what we can do with real estate companies, because that's what they do.
Yeah. And I
No
don't,
offen- no
and I
offense,
don't
Gord.
blame them. I
shouldn't say all of
certainly
them.
don't blame the owner of this house in any way, shape, or form. I'd be doing the very same thing. But I do think it's unfortunate that people are put in that position. Councillor Hyatt, as a real estate agent.
As a real estate agent, I'm not defending them. This is Sue Strawn's report we're referring to here. Is
Yes.
that what we're talking about?
Yes, she just...
Yeah.
So all these are ARB decisions, correct? Most of them? Through MPAC?
Are they all recommended by impact?
They have not gone to the ARB as of yet.
At this point?
Because the 357 application or 358 application is the first step in the process.
Okay.
If, based on council's decision, the property owner or taxpayer is unhappy, they have the right to go to the ARB
To
at that
appeal
point.
it, right, yeah.
But
Okay.
we will notify them as to what that deadline is.
So when MPAC does their evaluation of a property, like the mayor is referring to, where you're backing to green space, they're basically looking at the value of the home, correct? So
Yeah.
you could be next to an abattoir versus
Whether
a golf course, you know what I mean? It's based on the approximate value of the replacement of that
the
property.
assessments
So
should have maybe been corrected by MPAC when
they did it, yeah.
when the new
That was where I
development
was
went
going
and
with
the
it.
golf
Okay.
course was no longer there.
Thanks,
But
Sue, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Report 69, 17 of Brian's regarding architectural control, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Maybe somebody could explain to me why we need 3 pictures of Colonel Scott on a sign. Colonel Sanders, sorry, not Scott. Here. Yeah, it was. Okay, so what does council want to do about this? Councillor Malloy.
Mayor O'Connor, I'd move the recommendation. I'm not really impressed with the big black building, but the reality is it's a lot better than an empty building pulling into town, so I'm okay with it.
Okay, I have a seconder. Councillor, Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Anybody have,
Debbie's report,
oh, where, oh, sorry.
and Ingrid, yeah.
Okay, the, reports to council, CL 5417, regarding update on the new animal shelter. Don't everybody speak at once.
Carrie Lynn, my hands up.
Councillor, Barton.
Okay. I love what's happened with the amount of money that's been raised for the shelter. I love the idea. My concern is that it's a very, very expensive building. You know, the lot is now worth $500,000 that we're providing to it. I'd love to find a way for us to shave $200,000 or $300,000 off this, so that this committee doesn't have to raise $600,000.
The committee's not raising any more money. This is, the committee is out. This, is now between the, 2 municipalities. Maybe Debbie, you could come up, please. So what the motion is saying is that as originally approved, that the township continue with the funds allocated to the building as $240,000, which is $150 plus a contingency of $90, which we passed a long time ago, and $300,000 for the project, which we passed as a it was to be bridge funding or financing, sorry, but the committee have now said that they're not doing that. So what we're saying is that the $300,000, although it might not be the amount, hopefully we can come in with less than that, and then that the staff contact Township of Scugog, and that $540,000 is required for the contribution of the project, and the project costs be capped at 1.650, inclusive of costs and contingencies. We have to make sure Scugog is with us on this. Okay, Councillor Malloy.
I think some of the discussions that we have had regarding this building and with regard specifically to the funding is that I think the reality is we're going to be looking at a building worth maybe 1.3 million, and that's the money we're going to is a building that they designed some time ago, and obviously it's become far too expensive. So I think the reality is that we're going to be looking at a building we can afford to build for around $1.3 million, and I think that's the reality.
Well,
The 600 isn't going to happen, or the 300 to us isn't going to happen. So I think we have to build what we can afford to build.
I think that you have to take into consideration also, Councillor, that there's no furnishings, there's no fencing, included in that price. So, you're
And-
saying 1.3?
Well, and I think the problem we have with this now is that we have a building that clearly we all know we can't afford. I think we have to start with a 1.3 and see what we can build for 1.3 and what we can include. I think there's just a lot of information we don't have now. Things have changed in the last 5 years substantially, and we have to build what we need, but also what we can afford. So I think that we just have a lot more work to do before we commit any more funds to it. We're going to build it, but I think we got to put some more facts down on the sheet.
Councillor Hyatt.
And just a couple of questions, I guess, Debbie, through you to Debbie. On the portion that Scugog's going to forward to us, you're saying it's approximately $100,000 for the value of the current building. Is that the whole thing or just the building? Like if they sold that tomorrow, how much would they get for the...
No, because the problem with that property is it is all one big large parcel with the public works yard over there.
Okay.
So the only amount that we would be entitled to would be the half of the appraised value of the building.
Of the building itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So
if I can, Your Worship, through you, I just a bit more information to offer and kind of the reasoning why we ended up at the 1.6. So far to date, we've spent approximately $63,000 on site works and geotechnical and hydrogeological work. If we're looking at a contingency of about 15%, that's approximately $240,000. So basically what that's brought us back to is about almost 1.3, but 1.297. So for the building itself, it's not, if we end up scaling back to 1.3, it would end, by the time we back all that stuff out, so we're capturing information, like fencing, furniture, additional cages and things that is sitting around $80,000, which is again, that's why it's rolling us back to 1.2 and change. So by the time we take all those factors into consideration, if council scales us to 1.3, we're going to be well under $1 million that we have to build that building. So that's why we've at the 1.6. So we are taking out the funds that we've already spent, and then plus allowing about 15% for contingency, just based on some of the situations we've seen with the fire hall and what a couple of things that have arisen for other buildings that we are in the midst of building. We just felt that 15% was probably a little bit better than 10.
So is Scugog committed to half ownership of this new thing once it's done? Or are they just kicking in X number of dollars into the...
No, it would be basically a mirror agreement to what we have now, where it would be a 50-50 ownership, other than we obviously retain the land. So the agreement would be structured fairly close to the way we are now. In the event that something happens, the animal shelter is no longer needed because everybody looks after their animals and doesn't dump them off anymore, then
So
basically we would essentially have to pay them out probably 50% of the building value.
So as a group, if we decide to scale back the project to 1.3 or whatever, is the IPD thing flexible enough to deal with that? And how soon would we have to let them know where we're going with this?
Well, who's they?
I think it was through one of the colleges, wasn't it not, or?
Oh, George Brown
George
is
Brown?
who we've been working with. Well, basically, if we scaled that far back, then we would be essentially starting from square one. And we could certainly still use the IPD model. However, you would, I would suspect that even at the 1.2, that's not going to give us the building we've designed. We're hoping that...
NASS's idea was that they could sell these buildings to this Lend a Paw program or whatever it was, but if that's not happening, and we need just the basic box with a couple of rooms for dogs, cats, or whatever, then obviously that big model that they had envisioned is going to be scaled back. It'll be the number of rooms, it'll be less elaborate. I mean, so that 1.3 could be even less. All I'm saying is that IPD never dealt with it before, flexible enough to accommodate a shrinkage of the whole project? Or do we have to start again?
Well, that's what I'm saying is basically with IPD, we would be starting from square
From
one.
square one?
Because we
Okay.
wouldn't be anywhere close with 1.3. By the time I take
Right.
out what's been spent, contingency, things that weren't included in the original pricing,
Okay.
I'm well under $1 million.
All right, thanks, Deb.
However, as I've mentioned in my report, the idea would be that we would still continue to do room naming, to some degree, and hopefully seek out further, corporate and hopefully even personal donations to help offset the costing.
Thank you.
You, Your Worship, and through you to Donna. Donna, would this be termed as a capital project? This building of the new animal shelter, can that come under capital?
Yes, it would be a capital project.
Pardon me?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking this is, and I go back a few years, I can go back to, 1996, the second ice pad, where the users group, their responsibility, which I was part of it, was to raise $500,000, and which we did in 9 months. We used capital, and I'm saying, okay, this fundraising group had been doing this for 6 years. They've raised over $500,000. I'm wondering, between the two communities, Scugog and Uxbridge, if we couldn't sit down during our budget deliberations, so equally we match it with the $500 and some odd thousand already put in by the fundraisers and proceed that way. That's why I'm asking.
I'm not sure what the question was,
I don't know what you're saying.
Well, it looks to me that the fundraisers aren't going to be raising any more money, so that we have to come
They're
up with...
burnt out.
Pardon me? Oh, I know they're
burnt
burnt out. I realize that. So I'm saying between the two communities now, and maybe it has to go through budget deliberations, that we come up with the balance of the money and proceed in 2018, as we said we would endeavor to do.
I think that's what is
Just
being
want to
asked.
understand exactly what we're doing.
I think that's what's being asked today. Councillor, Madam Clerk.
I think in all fairness to NACIS, it hasn't been deemed one way or the other by that group whether they're going to continue or they're not going to continue. I suspect probably tomorrow night's meeting I'll know a little bit better in terms of what will happen with the group. They haven't said that they're going to disband altogether. There may be a smaller component that will continue on. The problem is I don't know. What they have identified as is attached in the letter to the report is that they will not be continuing on with their major gifts campaign. That we know for sure. But there could be an element of the group that remains and will continue on to do smaller project fundraising, but I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Okay, so we have report before you, and we have a recommendation. I have a mover or a seconder, Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? You'll have to push your button.
I'm looking at the recommendation.
Yep.
And the recommendation is saying that we're supporting an additional $300,000.
We've already supported it as a bridge financing. The only difference is now is that we're saying that it might fall back on us. That's the only difference. We've supported the 300,000.
As a loan.
As a bridge finance. We're hearing today that, you know, there's burnout, there's a number of things that have taken place since that commitment was, or that request was made to us by the NACIS. So, I don't think any of us are going to build a dog shelter or an animal shelter that's beyond our means. So, what this is doing, I believe, is giving us a heads up, giving Skugog's a heads up, and saying that we might have to come good for that 300,000. They've just had a gala, which we haven't seen the money from yet. Are they going to continue with the golf tournaments and that sort of thing? I would hope that they would, but as far as going out, you know, asking for money, I think there's a lot of money out there still, to be honest with you, from corporations, that once the shovel is put into the ground, that they are going to be coming forward. In fact, I spoke to somebody at the hospice, what do you call it? It wasn't a gala, but a hospice gathering in Scugog a couple of weeks ago, and they said they're ready to put in significant dollars, but they want to make sure that the thing is going to be built. Councillor Malloy.
I guess, Mayor O'Connor, my only concern is this. I have been at a few of the other meetings with Scugog, and that we can put in our, you know, we did make a commitment that we would bridge $300,000. I just want to make sure that we understand that we'll put in what they put in. And I'm just not, I mean, the reason I'm concerned about the dollars in this is I'm still not convinced that they're in. I'm sorry, I know they're in to build, but I don't believe they're in to build at $1.7 million.
Well,
and that's my concern.
And I understand where you're coming from. I think we all are a little hesitant about where they're coming from. Certainly we have heard from their CAO very loud and clear, but the CAO and the mayor are coming from, the mayor of Scugog are coming from different points of what do we call them? So anyway, the CAO from Scugog has asked for a copy of this report. So Debbie has put a very good, I feel, report. The other thing is I have to be very honest. If Scugog had been at the table all the time, they may not be as hesitant as they are today, but they have not had people at the table. And I don't mind saying that Debbie has been carrying the workload, for which we are all very thankful, Debbie. So how does council want to deal with this? I would suggest that we deal with it the way that it's being asked, and that when we hear back from Scugog, as Councillor Malloy has stated, that they're in for the same amount, maybe they'll come back with 100,000 versus 300, then we'll know exactly what we're working with them. Okay, so have we called the motion or not?
Yeah, we have we just need to call the vote.
Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion's carried. Report CAO of Ingrid Svelness regarding the downtown CIP funding, and I'll ask the CAO to speak on it.
Yeah, just I handed out a replacement. We realized that it didn't have sign district, and we know we don't have a heritage district, so it is for the heritage sign district. And this, I'm interested in any comments that you have in regards to the criteria, but that's from a staff perspective. The number of applications is going to be somewhat limited for the first go, but it's sort of, we've identified those as probably being the biggest priorities, is to bring people into compliance with the Heritage Sign District, beautification of the streetscape, likelihood that empty or underutilized storefronts would be occupied. Back up to number 1, property is situated in the commercial corridor within the CIP area, and that the township's financial contribution to the project is 25% or less of the total project cost. That's where we, from a staff perspective, have gone with this. And if you're comfortable with it, then what we'll do is we'll launch this CIP this week, and we'll get it out the door.
So a question, what you're saying is if a sign costs $100,000, my God, if the sign costs $100 as an example, the township will pay $25 towards that cost.
We can pay up to 50% of the cost.
Well, it says number 5.
What that is really talking about is we would like to see projects come in where somebody's saying, like, where the amount of the project is high. That's not saying we'll fund it to 25, but what we're saying is, let's say somebody came in with a project and it was, you know, 100,000 or 50,000. Those are the kind of big projects where our contribution of our 5,000
Okay.
means a lot, right?
So this is just not for signage, this is for facades as well?
That's right, and
Great.
building repairs.
Okay, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Councillor Hyatt?
I think the way that last point 5 reads is if they're gonna be paying more of it, then they would score higher than looking for more money. I think that's where
Yeah.
you're going with it.
Yeah.
So if they're paying 80% of it, we would look at them in a much higher light than someone who's only paying 50%.
Yeah, because that is sort of the
That's the
intent of
goal.
the CIP,
Yeah.
right, is investment in the downtown, or investment in the downtown, so that's
Exactly.
how we've looked at it.
I'll move the recommendation unless there's other questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Seconded, Councillor Malloy. All those in favour? Carried. Where are we now? Bylaws. Just, could somebody, before we read them, staff, please explain to me bylaw 166? I believe this is the Goldmenko, but is somebody here from staff that can answer it? One 166. It's a bylaw to authorize entering into an assumption agreement with 1638178 Ontario Inc.
Okay.
It says part of York Street and Centre Street. I think this is Goldmenko, but
It is Goldmenko, but
can
the
you come up, Deb, please?
the Goldmenko property switched hands, right?
Through your worship, so basically what this is, David Sudd's company has purchased the Goldmenko property, and there is an agreement that's already in place with the Goldmenko group, and I'm sorry, I don't know their name, but, basically what this is doing is then taking over that agreement.
Okay. So it has nothing to do whatsoever with the design of what's being proposed on the former Goldmenko? Okay. Is everybody good with that? Okay. Is there any other questions regarding any of the bylaws? Councillor Malloy?
Just 165. I know the Lepani property we're talking about, but exactly what are we doing? This is the one we-
165
yeah.
is, Lepani?
Yeah, this is the one where we split, right? Split
Yeah.
the property. So what's this doing? This is like a year ago we did this or more, right? Is there something new here that we need to know about? This is just,
Can you turn on your mic, please?
Would the clerk be able to come up and maybe answer Lepani? No? Okay.
I mean, it was some time ago we did this, the region permitted the subdividing this property. I just don't know what this is. Is this the agreement finally coming to fruition now?
That's how I read it, your worship. It's when, the
I don't know, 'cause we've been-
sod
we-
farm there.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah,
and
but
he-
we've dealt with it, and
I
now
thought we
it's
had.
back again. So I don't understand what this is doing, like, why has it come back?
Yeah, I thought we already had this bylaw
Yeah.
come through once.
We have.
And I didn't support it, so I'd wanna pull this off.
Okay, so,
Do you wanna just pull it, Mayor O'Connor, and bring it back at a later date?
yeah. Okay.
I'll make that motion if you like to table it.
Can I provide some information on the, 170?
Well, we got that.
Okay,
Your worship, for 165,
Yeah.
it's just lifting the H. So,
lifting the H? Oh, okay, great, thank you. Okay, are we all right with that?
Okay,
All right, the CAO wants to talk to 170.
And I just wanted to highlight 170, as you recall, at one point, we didn't seem to be heading down the road with a fire agreement with Scugog. And we actually have a fire agreement back in place with Scugog, and the agreement is for 5 years. And we will only be dealing with fires in Scugog, not medicals. But we have our coverage area, and vehicles will increase, the cost for vehicles will increase to the MTO rate, and we're satisfied with what we've been able to work out.
Okay? All right, who's got the bylaws? So we're fine with all of them.
So,
Except for one we've tabled.
Which, what?
Except for the
no,
one we
we-
tabled.
No,
we brought 165 back.
Oh, that's enough?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pull I'd like, 165 separate, as well as 167. Sorry to be a pain. $165 and $167 separate. Thanks.
okay.
Scott?
No,
he's pulling.
just pulling them. Okay, so we're dealing with bylaw 2017, 163, 164, 166, 168 through to 174,
That's correct.
okay?
Bylaws requiring first and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2017-163, 164, 166, 168 through to 174, and that the same be read a first and second time.
All those in favor of first and second reading? Questions?
Sorry, isn't the 174 the confirming bylaw?
174
So
is,
173.
No, there's another one on there. It's,
there's
actually, it's
another one
175.
on your addendum?
Oh, that's
175 will be the confirming one, Pat.
Oh, so we'll have to change that number to the confirming
Yeah.
bylaw. Okay.
Yeah. Okay?
Yep.
174 is,
Right.
all right?
Got it.
You're good?
Mhm.
All right, leave be granted for third.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that bylaws number 2017-163, 164, 166, 168 through 174 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Now we need one for 165 and 167.
You want them together? Okay. First and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2015-165 and 2017. Well, time flies when you're having fun, eh? 2015-165 and 167, and the same be read a first and second time.
All those in favor of first and second reading? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Leave be granted for third.
Third reading, that bylaw number 2017-165 and 167 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, unfinished business. Could I speak to all of you just regarding the Santa Claus parade? I did purchase some stuff for the trailer, but I want to ask what you want to do about headwear and that sort of thing, just before you leave, okay?
Oh, okay.
Any other business? Councillor?
Mayor O'Connor, we were gonna send a letter, we were gonna talk about a letter to be sent to, Seamus O'Regan in regards to the bust of Sam Sharp. Do you wanna do that next meeting, or should we do it?
Actually, we can do it under other business, right now. Thank you for reminding me.
No problem.
Two points of interest that, our MP, spoke to a couple of us about on, Armistice Day was that, there is a new Minister of Heritage, is that what? Veterans Affairs. And she, MP, Jennifer O'Connell, has suggested that we write a letter, stating that we want to see Sam Sharp, the plaque, put up in the, Parliament buildings. that, it's become, I think, and if I could sort of put my own words into it, it's become a political thing. You know what? Somebody that, served as a member of parliament, lost their life, as a result of, having to go to war. There's nothing political about this as far as I'm concerned. There is one other member that was a member of parliament. Now she says they have found a couple more. If that's the case, then they should also be recognized. So I think we would like, maybe staff to come up with I could help staff come up with a letter to, Seamus, the Honourable Seamus O'Regan, and let him know that how disappointed we are that 4 years after the fact, that Sam is still in a closet somewhere, and that, he needs to be hung, and given the, recognition that, the, others have been. Did I hit a basic note?
I think you hit exactly what we're talking about. Maybe we should change the word hung.
Pardon me? I didn't mean that. But he is virtually in some closet in the Parliament buildings, and not being displayed, and I think that's disgusting.
Well, didn't Jennifer O'Connell say something about that they need a total consensus of both?
They need the consensus of all three parties, including the Bloc, and they need the consensus of the Senate. Councillor Malloy.
Mayor O'Connor, I think that it really is disgraceful because I believe that was already done with the previous government, so this was already taken care of with and they should live up to what they did. And I think what they do forget is that it isn't just about Sam Sharp, it's about PTSD is one of the biggest focuses here.
Yeah.
And that's why it's absolutely not a political, should never be political.
No.
And should have already been dealt with, so. I agree 100%, I look forward to seeing the letter.
Okay, so we'll do that. We don't need I don't think we need a motion, or do you want to put it down as a motion?
Let's put it down as a motion,
Okay.
so it's...
Do I have a seconder? Councillor, Hyatt. All those in favor? Carried.
Unanimous.
Yes.
There should be so much
The
for
other
the vote.
thing that, Jennifer has spoken to is there is a lot of money still in infrastructure. And she has said that we should be putting forth our, application for the pool again. She's... Is there an open period right now? Apparently. You might want to get in touch with her office, but that is what she told us on, as I said, on Saturday, that we should be putting that application in again immediately. Okay? So I just hand that to staff. Councillor Ballinger.
Yeah, I didn't have... Sorry, Your Worship, but I wanted to see a recorded vote on this, that Mr. Sharp should be placed in his proper place.
Okay.
So that when it's sent through to them, that it's a recorded vote, and I can see it'll be unanimous.
Okay.
So I'd ask for a recorded vote if I could.
All right.
Recorded vote.
Just 1 second. Rules of procedure, do I have to do anything since the vote's already been taken? No? Okay, it's O'Connor's rules? Okay.
Can we just note that it was
We'll rewind the
unanimous?
tape.
We can just note it
That it
was
was unanimous.
And you know what? We should be adding something to that. It should go to the region for their support as well, and to every other municipality in Durham region. Okay? Yeah.
Ontario or the region?
I suggest Ontario, I mean, the whole problem, sure, write down the AMO list, that we see it all the time from different municipalities.
Pardon? Well,
I'm good with that.
I do have a list of all 444 municipalities and their email addresses, so we don't have to do it through email.
all right. That's $1 a municipality. Okay, is there any other business before I go to the press? None? Excuse me, could you come up here? You remind me constantly. Yes.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
So,
that the Township of Uxbridge make an application for federal infrastructure money for the building of a new pool. Is that good enough? Okay.
I think it's my motion.
Okay, so we have a mover and we have a seconder. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, press. Let's start with the ladies today.
Just wanted to clarify on the CIP funding, so that will be launched and available this week for people to apply, is that what I heard?
Yes, I believe that's what you heard.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
That's it, Moya?
That's all I got.
Okay, Roger, beat that.
Thank you, Mayor. On that same subject, have any businesses taken advantage of the CIP this year or last year at all?
I don't believe so, but I'll have to confer with, no,
No, none yet?
no.
Okay. On the animal shelter, Mayor, am I to understand that the NASIS or NASIS committee is no longer functioning?
I believe there's going to be a core, but certainly the chair and a couple others have stepped down for personal or other reasons. And they have basically said their major fundraising, and Debbie, please correct me if I'm wrong, their major fundraising, as we have known it, is no longer.
Would that indicate, Mayor, that we're going to see a scale back animal shelter from what was originally proposed?
I think what you heard today, Roger, is the fact that we have X number of dollars, and we will not probably be building it to what the model is that we have seen. But we will certainly build a shelter that meets the needs of the animals that we are protecting. Until we get down to it, and I mean, we're dealing now with, we will be dealing with 2018 prices versus what we've seen on paper before, so.
And Debbie's report says we're going to start construction in 2018.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea when in 2018 we're going to start, and will the project be completed in 2018?
It's our desire to have the project, and certainly that's our deadline, is to have it completed in 2018. At this point, I cannot answer when we're ready to put a shovel in the ground, but perhaps Debbie could give us a better idea.
And I'm not quite sure how to ask this, Mayor.
Just spit it out.
Just spit it out. If we end up with a scaled back building and operation, other than what we saw in the video of the model and that, have we been, I don't know how to put, have we been selling potential donors a bill of goods? This is what we're going to do, and then we give them a scaled back version?
No, I don't believe so, Roger. I believe that every resident in this municipality, I can't speak for Scugog for sure, but they understand that there is a limit that we can put into this building. We're going to give the building the best possible, or we will build a building that will certainly meet the needs, and you know, there might be one less room, there might be, maybe the rooms will be scaled back a bit in size, but certainly I believe it's everybody's desire here is to build as close as we can to what has been presented, taking into consideration the dollars that we have.
Thank you, Mayor.
Roger's question, we're certainly hoping, as per the plan all along, that we will be ready to go in the early spring. That's been the focus, and I hope that in terms of the shelter, I mean, the size, the look, the feel, right now it's just all speculation in terms of what we're going to end up with as an end product, and until we go out to tender and get some pricing and have our IPD consultant on board, we're not going to know that. We certainly hope that, like I said, the look, the feel, everything will be very similar, if not the same, but that's unfortunately what kind of we're in a bit of a state of the unknown right now, so. And as I mentioned earlier, Roger, NASIS, we do not know, and nor is it our place to speculate in terms of what that group will look like after the end of the year. That's their call and how their structure is going to be. They may continue on full-fledged, I don't know, but the letter did stipulate that they would not be carrying on with their major gift campaign, and that's all we know right now.
Okay.
Just regarding the animal shelter, did you guys, support the recommendation?
Yes, we did.
Okay, thank you, that's my only question.
Anything else? Anybody in the audience? No? Put your hand up, Bimp. What can we do for you? Okay, so I need a motion now, to go into camera. But before, let's say we have a 5-minute break before we go into camera, and we're going into camera to regarding a litigation or potential litigation, and also one regarding a personal matter. Have a great week, everybody. Brian, and seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? I'm talking about coming out of camera. All those in favor? Carried. I have a motion that's been duly moved and seconded. I read it. Thank you, as the mayor. It's been duly moved and seconded that the Township Council be instructed to offer to settle the application of Uxbridge Shooting Sports Club on the terms set out in a confidential memorandum presented to Council on November the 13th, 2017. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Any other business? Nothing? I have confirming. Just off, okay. Confirming bylaw, please.
First and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2017-175, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council at its regular meeting of November 13th, 2017, and the same be read a first and second time.
All those in favor? Third reading.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Ballinger, that bylaw number 2015-175 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the Mayor and Clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Carried. Move for adjournment. Everybody. Okay, thank you. You want to turn that?